Morning. So thank you for the opportunity, and really thank you for all of you to attend a Saturday morning workshop and taking your time from this summer weekend. It's not easy. So thank you for that. And today our topic is based on purity, because in BrahmaKumaris, the month of August is actually the month of purity, because we renew our vow of purity in our thoughts, words, and actions with God. So this is our yearly renewal time, right? It's like the membership renewal time. So we try to renew our vow of purity, because the whole basis of the BrahmaKumaris teachings are based on purity. So the best way to transform ourselves, to transform our weaknesses, to transform our vices into virtues, into power, is based on purity. And so purity for the BrahmaKumaris is a very deep and profound influence. It's something that we like to always keep in our thoughts, words, and actions, because if we cannot manifest purity in all these three forms, we have failed to follow our motto. And our motto is self-transformation leads to world transformation. And this transformation is towards peace and love, right? And so that's what BrahmaKumaris have been doing for the past 84 years since the start in 1936. So it is very, very important for us, this concept of purity. And I just wanted to know, hopefully this is an interactive session, and if people can turn on their cameras and are able to speak, that will be nice, since we have a very small crowd here. Is that okay, Nalisha Ben, if we can have an interactive session rather than I just keep lecturing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I would want to have thoughts on what you think of purity in the experience that you had in your life. How do you see purity in your life? I just want to get a glimpse of your life by how you define purity. What happens to you when you hear the word purity, or what thoughts come to you when you hear the word purity? So maybe we can start with, we can go like a round table and see what everyone thinks of purity.
So you can just unmute yourself or raise your Zoom hand if you're a little shy.
I think you might want to call out their names so that they are, everybody gets up. We have like, I think.
So I see that Zoila unmuted herself. Yes, Zoila?
Yeah, we are like 10 people here. So yeah, it should be easy sharing.
Zoila?
Oh, for me, purity is, that's a very good question. I never really think of it except of clean. I know that's a weird word, but just clean, peace. That's really a good question. I have to think on it more. I unmuted too soon.
Well, Zoila, I actually had the same word in mind, which was like a cleanliness. So not a weird word.
Oh, good.
Prabha?
We call it water is pure. Water is pure.
Water.
We pay more money for the pure water.
And what they write on the bottle?
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
All right, I see Prabha and then Patricia.
Before I used to think purity means something that is impossible and impractical. And then as I began to practice meditation, I understood purity as a very honest, simple space without overthinking things. And it's an inner knowing. So for me, purity is kind of like your consciousness. If you tune in, you can tell if something is, like the sister said before me, if it is clean or pure or uncomplicated or not. So my definition has changed.
Patricia?
Well, I think purity is a very important aspect of my spiritual journey. And I used to think that it was only about the physical aspect of having a pure body, but now I realize that it's not only about physical, it's also about the words that are being used and the thoughts that I have. So certainly my definition of purity has expanded. Thank you.
Thank you. Ronnie?
I think purity is just simplicity. That's it.
Thank you. Simplicity. And I see in the chat box, we have a couple comments. I think it's having good intentions. That was from Summer. And then Zorla was also saying, I feel we are lacking in it nowadays. Anyone else would like to share? All beautiful responses. I see Ravindra Bhai's hand is up.
We call it the pure gold. Gold, pure gold,
Pure gold.
pure gold.
So that's what comes to Ravindra Bhai's mind, gold.
Like
gold.
24 karat gold.
The pure gold means they use the word pure gold,
Right.
purity, pure gold.
Everyone loves pure.
Everyone loves pure. You know, pure things, everybody likes it. And nowadays they use the word naked, but naked is the pure, right? In other words,
Nothing mixed.
nothing mixed, right? You know, in the store they write, you know, the new product means organic,
Nothing mixed.
nothing mixed, no artificial.
And if I can add on to what Ravindra Bhai and Jay Shriban are saying, when you have something that is considered like something that's pure, it also is considered to have higher value. Like to be of a higher value because it has nothing mixed in it or nothing, it's completely like, it's just at its best, like at its most highest content or best point. So I think that's interesting. Anyone else want to share? I think that's quite a few comments.
Okay. Great. So I, being in the pharmaceutical industry, we have the utmost attention to this word purity. And that is because we are dealing with the health of millions of billions of patients around the world. And so the purity, concept of purity is very, very important. And that's why it's a regulated industry, because if you didn't regulate the industry, if you didn't have the FDA and if you didn't have the regulatory bodies around the world, then the medicines that come into the market may not be of the utmost pure quality that is needed to treat the disease. The medicine itself could become a problem. So this word purity is very, very important, and definitely in all walks of life, but especially in the food and the medicines we take. So we go to very tedious and meticulated processes for having this purity. The purity of the main ingredient, the purity of the excipients. So purity for us physically and also in the awareness, it's been drilled into us that it's very important. Without that, we are not going to get approval for any product, right? And so when we talk about this single word purity, this word purity is creating a lot of attention around the world in every walk of life. And the reason is because if we don't pay attention to the purity, then the day-to-day routine operations will come to a stop. Because whatever we use, right, we have to make sure that we have the purity in that sense, because that is why purity has a lot of high value. The first thing is the time is dictating that everything around us is becoming more and more impure, including the intellect of the people. And that makes it very hard for us to have a day-to-day peace in life, because peace originally comes from things that go smooth. So our day-to-day life, if it is not smooth in any way, then it's going to be peaceless. Like, for example, from the time we get up, let's say we get up to a nice, beautiful morning, right? And instead of a nice, beautiful morning, which has a clean air outside, a clean atmosphere outside, we get up to a atmosphere that's cloudy and hazy and polluted. I'm sure the mood of us is going to be different, right? So we always think about, and Connecticut is a very beautiful place, right? Connecticut, I just assuming that all of you are living in Connecticut. And so I recently read an article that Connecticut has made the forestation a lot. So they have increased the flora and fauna of the state very much. So that there was like a hilarious video a few days back of a bear stealing an Amazon package. So the animals are interacting more and more in the vicinity of neighborhoods, in vicinity of communities, so much so that because of the plantations that have been done by the state, like there is so much increase in greenery, and it's a very beautiful place. We have one of our companies training centers there, and very beautiful. It's in the near the area where you are all staying, like near Danbury. So it's a very rich in a pure feeling, because that's what nature gives you, that pure, serene feeling. And why that happens is because of the purity in the air, the quality of the air that you breathe, right? The serene water bodies. So definitely purity is very important in that sense. It gives us a peaceful mood automatically. And we don't need to make an effort for that. But think about somebody who's in a war-prone zone and they are waking up to bombs and right. So this is their life, and they are starting to see that it's all dusty and hazy and everything. So in the first place, they won't be even able to sleep. Forget about getting up. So the purity itself is automatically embedding the word peace in its quality. It's not separable. I feel like the purity and peace, these words are not separable. And when you have the purity, the peace is automatically there in all walks of life, whether it's in thoughts, in words, or in actions. So we do have numerous examples of pure things that brings the peace to the day-to-day life, physically, but also spiritually. Like when somebody sees a clean water, like a clear water, right? It's like therapeutic. Or a very nice scenic place. It's therapeutic because it's the energy of that pure thing that is giving you that peace. So we can't deny that. But then the energy of the people greatly dictates the energy of the surroundings. So it could be a very beautiful place, but if it is filled with people who have impure thoughts, people who are angry, or people who are other vices, right, greedy, then you have a distaste for that place, because however beautiful the place could be, but the people in the place make that place, right? And so if they are mean, they are rude, they are angry, they are greedy, they are egoistic, however beautiful the place would be, like somebody coming and visiting that place, they would not have a very good experience of that place because of the people who has made that place peaceless. So they could have clean air, clean water, clean everything, very beautiful, but then the experience, right? So not all places are having that atmosphere. So definitely the people are a big part of maintaining a purity of the place. And so our communities and as individuals, we have this responsibility of having the purity in our awareness to maintain the peace. And it is very important as we go around and hear news every day of communities failing to have this fundamental right, in a sense, because it's our fundamental right to be peaceful. It is our fundamental right to have a peaceful life. And so many wars have been fought to have the peace, however ironic it might sound, right? People have waged wars for one reason, to have a peaceful life. So even though war and peace don't go with each other, sometimes they have established the war to maintain the peace. Because things were going out of bounds, so they had to do a war. They had to rebel. And they have to make that happen, right? Like we have a lot of things in our history to show that, like the French Revolution is one such example, right? People were not having things to eat, enough to eat. People were not having good, peaceful life. They have been heavily taxed or whatever, and they were in the utmost social, economic, and political turmoil. And so they all started to rebel against the monarchy. And the best reason that they could give was to have a peaceful life, to have a life that's without all these atrocities that was done to them. But the means by which they achieved that could be cruel and warlike, but this is what they were going through every day. And so they had the rebellion, right? So most of the time things are waged for our restoration to peace. And peace is something we cannot live without, right? We always need peace. We need a peaceful life. And so this concept of purity, we don't have to really argue against it. I don't think anyone has argument against purity, like why we should have purity, why we should have peace, because these are our original nature, the nature of the soul, to be in peace, to be in purity, to be loved, right, to be happy. So these are our fundamental rights, and these are our fundamental qualities, and we all like it beyond our race, our gender, our age. It doesn't matter. And so when we have these qualities that we need to retain, so we always say that these are our fundamental qualities, that it's not that we have to acquire it, but these are our qualities that we are born with. It's in our system, it's ingrained in our system very deeply, that it's not something that we can separate from ourselves. And so the only way that we can regain that purity is by getting rid of the impure things, the impure vices, that is not allowing us to be in that state of purity. So those impure vices are acquired and are temporary in the system. The purity is not temporary. The purity is something that is ingrained in the system. It's deeply ingrained in the soul. But the vices or the acquired qualities are not. And so if I have to choose, it is easy for me to retain something that is permanently there instead of what is acquired, right? It's easy to move a chair instead of a pillar in the house, because the pillar is part of the house. I can't move the pillar without breaking the structure of the house, but I can move a chair because I just bought it. I can move a chair, I can throw a chair out, right? So it's very easy for me to get rid of the vices which are temporary. But I have to understand what is temporary and what is permanent in the first place. So the process of purification needs the power to discern. So always, without the power of discerning, the power to say what is true and what is false, what is right from what is wrong, I have to decide before I know which things can be removed and which things cannot be removed. And if I identify the things that I can remove from my system and things that I cannot remove from the system, the things that are removable from the system are the vices. I can never attempt to remove peace from my system, because that is something, it's an original quality of the soul. How much ever I want to remove peace, I will not be able to, because the soul will again and again go to that state of peace. It will long for that peace. So if I am not having the peace continuously, right? If I'm not having the peace continuously, then I have to change something very deeply inside me to restore that peace. Right? Going out of bad company, coming out of this one. But sometimes physically it is not possible.
Karthik, I have a question.
Yes.
I ask a question. So I may want peace, but there are people around me who will challenge that peace. Like I might have the best of intention. You
Correct.
know, I may have the best of in my mind that yes, if a situation happens, I'm going to remain calm. If this happens, I'm not going to say something negative. But sometimes it could feel like other people may not always act that same way. And so their behavior, their words, you know, push me away from my peace. And I understand I can't change them. But I also get hurt. Like my emotions, you know, my feelings, my sometimes my lack of, you know, just if it feels like I'm just being pushed down. And so what would be something that would help me to connect to that peace so that I know I can't change them, but I don't become affected by them? Because I've also created habits of feeling certain ways that have pulled me away from my peace at the same time. It's not like because of an individual that my peace is gone. It's I've habitually had those situations happening. And so it's like, what do you do in those moments? Because I know I have to get away from the conversation of if only they would change.
So the best way to do that is, at least what I practice, is detachment. Detachment, not in a physical way, but for example, let's say that Sister Nalisha is speaking something to me that is not in my interest, or it is something that is I know that is going to take away my peace, or it is something that I know that I'll get upset. Right? So this is where the purity comes into play. So the purity concept, the awareness of purity from the BrahmaKumaris teachings is very simple. So the first thing that I have to look at is it my original nature to get upset? Is getting upset my original nature? So I check. And the flow chart, let's say, like we can build a flow chart, right? And say there is like a decision tree and say, okay, getting upset, is it my original quality or my acquired quality? What do you think? So this is where your power of discerning comes, right? Is getting upset my original quality or my acquired quality? It's not my acquired, it's not my original quality, it's an acquired quality. I practice to become upset by seeing others upset. I practice to become upset by seeing others upset. I didn't have this quality. This was not my original quality. I didn't know what is getting upset. I didn't even know the meaning of upset, or meaning of a word called jealousy or something, right? It's so beautiful when you teach kids, right? And sometimes something comes and the word, and they don't know the meaning of that word. So they don't understand that word. So one time I was teaching a class to kids, and I used this word jealousy. And so there was an 8-year-old girl, and she raised her hand and she asked me, what is jealousy? So that's the purity, right? Because I don't even know the meaning to that word jealousy, right? How pure that is. So I said to her, like, I will not explain it to you right now because I want you to stay that way. I don't want you to know the meaning of that word jealousy. So then I realized that when we teach kids, we have to be very careful what words we are even using to give examples, because they may not even know what jealousy is. So why introduce them to jealousy when they don't even know what it is? Right? And so I told her, like, I will change my example. So I changed my example when teaching, right? So that's the purity. So the purity of us is our original state where we are totally oblivious to the things that upset us in the first place. So I don't even know how to become upset, right? Can I go to that stage where I don't even know that how to become upset? So if I see my decision tree and my power to discern, and then I say, okay, getting upset is not my original quality. And if it is no, then I should know how to remove that getting upset. So what are the things that make me upset? The first thing is me listening to that conversation and registering the conversation, every word that Sister Nalisha speaks from her mouth, right? I'm listening to it. I'm using my ears, right? I'm responding to it. I'm processing it in my intellect. And I am trying to derive meanings from that statement that she is saying. But if I knew that Sister Nalisha is always going to upset me whenever she opens her mouth, I'm going to shut my ears, even though I'm listening to her, but I'm not listening to her. I'm not registering what she's saying. Sorry to have you as a target here, but
No, I understand. I'm just an example.
yeah. So then I'm going to listen to her. I'm going to hear her, but I'm not going to listen to her. That means I'm not going to register whatever she's saying. Right? And that is where I maintain my purity, because the purity is not only in knowing what is pure and what is impure, but also to protect myself from that impurity. Protect myself from listening to that impurity. So I have to be detached. So this word detachment is very important in that place, is that I simply detach my intellect from my ears, right? It's not a physical detachment, but it's a mental detachment. So this is a practice of listening, right? I'm listening, but not listening. I'm hearing, but not hearing. And this is not a practice that will come overnight. So this, to maintain the purity, I need to keep this practice. So what all do we do to have something purified, right? We have a process of keeping that purity, or if it's mixed already, we have a process of separation, right? Separating that purity. Either you keep the purity, like for example, 24 karat gold. You try to keep the purity. It's not like you're going to melt it and heat it, or so you keep it clean without exposing it to so many things, right? And also the other thing that you would do is if it got mixed, let's say it became 22 carats by somebody spoiling it by adding copper, then you heat it to separate the copper and the gold. You have to go through that process of heating. So some qualities are easily separable, but some qualities may not be easily separable. So for me to get rid of the vice, so what the BrahmaKumari teaches you is to meditate. So I need to meditate in order for me to supply the heat to remove that impurity from the soul. So without applying the heat of meditation, right? The meditation is generating the spiritual heat to separate my virtues from my vices. And there should be a source of that heat. So I cannot simply provide heat without a source. So the source of that heat is God. the Supreme. So when I connect through meditation, my intellect with the Supreme, I get the heat that I need to separate my virtues from my vices. But if I don't go through that process of meditation, which in our teachings is simply a remembrance, remembering God as He is, as a point of light, in the awareness that I am also a soul, a point of light. So He is the Supreme and I am the soul. And when I connect myself to Him, I get the heat that I need to separate the vices from the virtues. So this process I have to go through every day to make sure that every vice is removed from me, to keep my purity. So my protection is also that I go through the process every day. And if I don't go through the process, I will not be able to achieve that purity. And if I don't achieve the purity, the peace will not come with it. Because we already know that when we have the purity, the peace is kind of tied up to that purity. So we all agree to that. But now we have to go through that process of separation. And separation means that I have to put the effort, right? If I have to do my spring cleaning, then that means I have to go through the effort of separating what is needed and what is not. When I go for a journey, I have to separate things that I need to pack up and things that I need to leave. So I need to use these processes to achieve that state. So to achieve the state of purity, I need to go through that process. But to go through the process, I need to be aware in the first place why I need that purity. And we know the answer, that the purity is going to maintain the peace. So I need the purity in order to maintain the peace. So I need to be detached. I can't listen to every word that Sister Nalisha is speaking if I don't want to be upset. So I know the purpose, why I behave in such a way, right? Because I need to understand that I have to maintain my purity. So that awareness is ingrained in me. So I choose what to listen, who to listen, what to see, who to see, what to hear, who to hear, what to speak, who to speak, when to speak, right? And I do all these choices, and to have these choices in a very fast deciding environment, I need to maintain the awareness. But if I'm not aware, if I'm oblivious to the fact, I can just walk into the trap, right? If the enemy is having a trap and you just walk into it, but if you have the intelligence, if you have the information that you can't go there because that's where the danger is, then you wouldn't go there. But if I simply am not aware of the situation, I just walk into the trap. And that's what we do in our day-to-day life. We walk into these traps that are taking away the purity from us. We are not protecting it. We won't do that with our wallets or purses, right? We try to secure our money, our property. We know how to do it legally so that nobody can come and sit in our house, right? Because we have the papers to prove that it's our house, it's our property. So this purity and peace is first. The awareness is it's my original quality. So if it is my original quality, can I allow anyone else to take it from me? So purity is the basis of this peace. So can I allow anybody to touch my purity? Can I allow anybody to influence my purity? Through words, through actions, through their thoughts. They will try. But I should be intelligent enough to protect my purity from all these influences. Right? Because the purity is of very high value. You understand that even physical things, when they are very pure, they are very high value and they are protected in a safe, right? So high value things are always protected, and the extent of protection depends on the value of the product. So if my peace is very important to me, I will go to any extent to protect it. And the highest protection that I can ever get is from God. The best protection I get is from God. And God being my eternal parent, it is easy for me to get that protection because I don't need to pay for it. It's easy, right? It's free when it's from your parents. Right? And so it is always important for us because it's our right. And so we need that protection. We need that peace. We will protect our purity. And we will understand the method. We'll be aware of what is needed and we'll be also doing it. I will keep my relation.
So
Right?
Patricia has a question, her hand up.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. You commented earlier about how beautiful Connecticut is and how peaceful it is, and I agree with that. However, I'm not a resident of Connecticut. I'm a resident of New York. And unfortunately, we cannot say that about our great city or state at this point. And living in New York, I think, has left me in a state of needed alertness. And the violence in New York is, at this point, is really unprecedented. And so I try to be vigilant and at the same time maintain peace. And negative thoughts such as what's going on in the city keep coming into my mind, and I am very much aware that I can control my thoughts. However, in order to take care of myself, I do need to maintain some sense of vigilance. So I'm just wondering if you have any other suggestions for someone living in that type of an environment right now, in addition to meditating, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah. So meditation is the supreme protection that you can get because it's from the Supreme, and it's the most inexpensive and powerful way to get that protection because it doesn't cost anything. But still, you get that protection based on your relationship with God because you are a child of God. So you could be walking in the toughest environment, but you are guaranteed that protection. Right? And so that is the awareness that I keep myself when I walk to any place. Right? So for me, the United States is a place where I immigrated to. So when I was just 23 years old, I came into this country and I didn't know anyone here, no one. And it was 8,000 miles away from my home.
Yeah.
Right? And I was just 23 years old. And but the reason I knew I could adapt to the place, a new place, is because of the faith in God. that faith is my protection.
Thank you.
Can you talk more, Karthik, about detachment? Because I can't isolate myself from everything. You know, these days, every time I turn on the news or social media, all I see is tragedy that's happening locally and also globally. And I can't help but keep looking at it because I don't know how to help. And I don't want to pretend it doesn't exist, but I also find it affecting it increases my stress levels. Like if I think about what's happening in Afghanistan, I know I can't do anything to actually help the situation. And, you know, I don't know anyone from Afghanistan personally, but it still bothers me because I see people suffering, you know, for rights that I myself enjoy on a daily basis living in this country, or the pandemic. And I know you've been heavily involved in terms of the vaccination side, which, by the way, thank you. And, you know, but it's also concerning because there's so much debate now going on. So it's like, where does detachment come in? Because I need to be aware of what's happening in the world, or even in my workplace, there could be disagreement, or there's, you know, people who treat each other not always so kindly. I have to live in this world. I have to go to work. How do I take it into a practical level, and where do I start? Like what thoughts, like what is my starting point? You know, if I'm not if I'm not a regular meditator, or I'm still trying to figure out what my relationship with God is, maybe I haven't really, you know, solidified that, like it hasn't really firmed up in me. Where do I start so that at least I can start to experience this purity or peace in my mind? Because I need something, because the world is stressful. So where would you suggest that I start?
Yeah, I would say that one of the reasons behind the chaos is it's natural. Chaos is natural. Even scientifically, it's natural. Okay, chaos is something that cannot be prevented. Chaos, even thermodynamically or any scientific way, chaos is negative free energy that is available at the expense of goodness. Okay, that's how we see chaos, right? Even scientifically, we see chaos. We call chaos in a different word. It's called entropy. In science, we don't call chaos chaos, but we call chaos as entropy. And entropy going out of bounds is natural. It's like water flowing down the mountain. But if I have to regulate how it flows, right, I need to put some limitations to the water, like maybe making the water flow through a pipe instead of just allowing it to flow on the rocks and everything, right? Just allow it to flow, channelize, right? So my exposure, for example, I cannot stay away from the news, but I can reduce the number of hours I spend on watching news channels. Some people just turn on the TV and the news channel is going on and on, right? All the news channels are 24 hours, right? CNN, all the, so it's not necessary that you're listening to the news all the time, right? I limit myself to how much news I'm watching. I limit myself to how much social media I'm using. So this is how, it's like eating, right? So it's like food for the mind. So I can keep eating the French fries from, right, the McDonald's every hour. Or I can choose to eat it once a week, or I can choose to eat it once a month. So that will dictate my health, because I am the one putting it into my mouth. So that's the first step, like making sure you have control over your senses. And control over my senses needs courage, it needs determination, it needs discipline. If I don't have the discipline, then I am going to be prone to all these negativities very easily. And the meditation basically is a method to bring that discipline in the individual. So I can't say that I don't want this, but I also don't want meditation. It's like saying I have diabetes, but I don't want to take the medicine. And I just want the sugar to be controlled by itself, right? But I lost my capacity to regulate the sugar in my blood. That's why I need help. So meditation is the help that I seek. So I can't say I'm so busy in life, I'm also stressed, but I don't need meditation. Meditation is for people who are retired, right? I don't have the time. Or when I retire, maybe I'll think about meditation. Or when I retire, I'll think about spirituality. We can't say that because that's my protection. So if I push away the protection, but I still want to be safe, it's not possible, right? It's like you want the cake and eat it too. You can't have that. So the first thing I say to people who say, oh, I don't need meditation or I don't need the spiritual life is then tell me where you are getting your discipline from. So I can't avoid something that I need the most at this hour, right? It's like saying I don't need the paste and the brush, but I want to clean my teeth. That's not possible, right? Or I don't need the detergent, but I want to wash my clothes. That's not possible. So you need it. So first I have to realize I need what I need and what I don't need. And that is the power of discerning. And so sometimes we can't make sense into people, but they learn it the hard way. Maybe they will brush their teeth just by rinsing their mouth. And after a few days, when it really stings, they'll come back and say, okay, I need that paste. Right? So sometimes we have to leave them to their freedom because they think that's their freedom. That's their right to choose. And if they don't want to choose meditation and still want the peace and the purity and all that in the time of this chaos, it's not going to happen. So somebody talks sense into them or they just learn it the hard way. We'll just wait patiently for them to realize that it's needed. It's not something that they can just brush off or sweep it under the rug and say, oh, it's all fine and dandy and give me another way, right? There is no other way, right? There is no other way. So that is the problem. Sometimes we may have only one choice and we don't want to take that choice, then we have to go through that suffering. So I don't know whether it answered your question.
It does. We have to make a conscious decision.
Conscious choice.
We
Yes.
have to, we can't keep allowing things to happen to us, but we actually have to take this is what I'm hearing from you is that
Correct.
we have to make
Take
the
charge.
conscious.
Yeah, we have to take charge.
We have to.
It's our responsibility. And if we are responsible and we first are able to take care of ourselves, then we'll also be able to take care of others. And I think that's a responsibility that we have. Like if I remain safe, I can also try to help others to become safe. But if I myself is in like hot water, I can't rescue anyone, right? So if I can't maintain my peace, how am I going to help others to get the peace? Right? Simply for just for humor, let's say that if Sister Nalisha was always looking at me and I was always angry and spitting out words and all that, I don't think I would have been invited to this workshop. Simple, right? She would be like, I'm not bringing in Karthik Bhai, who's always, and then I can't talk about peace because I never had that. So maybe if there was a workshop on anger, maybe she would have invited me then, right? Not on peace. So if I don't possess that quality, I can't talk about it because I don't have any experience of it. So it's very difficult to expect someone to rescue someone who is themselves in like trouble.
That's very true. Anyone else have questions or comments?
I like this explanation of how meditation is like the detergent that you have to use to wash your clothes. So if you have the intention of wanting pure, clean clothes, but you deny the use of the detergent, then you are in denial. And I guess meditation is the cheapest and most customized individual way we can handle or navigate any situation. So thank you for all those comparisons and explanations, because it makes it very practical, instead of making it sound like some kind of an old-fashioned thing that old people do before they die, you know. So I will use all your examples. I'm going to take them from you, brother. And I'm going to tell that to a lot of people because it gave us such a sense of immediacy. We're talking about the Afghan problem. We're talking about contemporary politics and violence and stuff. And it's kind of like almost the one-stop shop to find out what we need to do in that situation. And I also see that you're not giving specific solutions, but you are pointing to this meditation because it will give us organically what we need to do in that moment. But it is our effort. So I'm very grateful for this language and these explanations. Thank you.
So we have, thank you, Prabhu. We have a question and a comment. So from Zoila, make sure you use a good detergent. And then a question from Summer, how about worry? Since nothing is predictable anymore, how can we prepare ourselves and our children?
Yeah, the first thing is not to worry. So the first way you will prepare your children is never teach them how to worry, right? Let them be oblivious to that word worry, just like that 8-year-old girl who was oblivious to the word jealousy, right? Let them not know what worry is. Let's not teach anyone what worry is. If we want the future, that's the first word we have to remove from the dictionary, worry. Worry, doubt, fear. These 3 words, we have to literally, nobody should know these words. It's unfortunate that we learned these words. It's better we can live a better life without these words. We don't need these 3 words, fear, doubt, and worry. So let's not teach the future what worry is, what doubt is, what fear is. Those are not good words to learn. Like we should remove them from our dictionary completely. That's what creates all the problems. The worry is what creates problems. The doubt is what creates problems. The fear is what creates problems. So that's the best way to handle, to not know about it.